I raised her baby for 6 years. While she smiled at me across the dinner table like nothing happened, but I knew. I knew from the day I held him, he wasn't mine. I was the good sister, the responsible one, the one who always showed up. My name is Ella, and for 6 years, I raised my sister's child, called him my own, while she looked me in the eyes and smiled. But there's one thing she never knew. I always suspected. It all started with a bite of mashed potatoes. Ella passed the gravy, that voice so sweet, so fake. Samantha, my older sister, the golden one, the charming one, the girl who could set the house on fire and convince everyone it was my fault. She sat across from me at our parents' dinner table, laughing like she didn't hold the biggest secret of my life in her smile. I handed her the gravy boat with a hand that didn't shake. Not anymore. We were celebrating my son's 6th birthday. His name was Caleb. Bright eyes, wild curls, heart of gold. Everyone believed I was his mother, even him. Blow out your candles, baby. I smiled. He blew. We clapped. I kissed his forehead. And across the table, I saw Samantha freeze, just for a second. Her smile twitched. Her hand trembled as she reached for her wine. 6 years ago, I got a call. I need your help, Samantha whispered. She was sobbing, hysterical. I'm pregnant. He left me. I don't know what to do. I dropped everything, flew across the country, stayed in her apartment, fed her, held her hair back when she vomited, slept on the couch for 2 weeks. She never told me who the father was, just that it was complicated, and she wasn't ready to be a mother. I offered what I thought was love. I'll adopt him. If you're sure, she cried and hugged me like I was her savior. I didn't know then that the man who got her pregnant was my fiancé. His name was Mark, kind, soft-spoken, dependable, or so I thought. We were engaged for 8 months, planning the wedding, picking venues. Then one day, out of nowhere, Ella, I'm not ready for this. He broke it off. No cheating, no scandal. Just confusion. I was heartbroken but mature. I didn't push. Didn't scream. I told myself it wasn't meant to be. 3 months later, Samantha told me she was pregnant. I never connected the dots, not until years later. Not until Caleb turned 5 and smiled exactly like Mark used to. We were at the park. Caleb had just fallen off the slide, scraped his elbow, cried. I picked him up, and as he sobbed, his bottom lip curled, exactly the way Mark's used to when he got emotional. I froze. My arms tightened around him. It was so small, so specific, but I knew. My body knew before my brain did. I brushed it off. Told myself I was being paranoid, that I missed Mark, and I was projecting, but it haunted me. That smile, those eyes, that curl in his hair. It took me 6 months to work up the courage. I didn't tell anyone. I collected a toothbrush, a piece of Caleb's hair from his pillow, and I mailed it to a DNA testing company. I listed myself as the mother. I left the father field blank. 2 weeks later, I got an envelope. No email, no app. I didn't want notifications. Just paper. I opened it alone in my bedroom while Caleb slipped down the hall, and I saw it. Probability of maternity, 0%. Biological mother, not a match. I thought I'd scream. I didn't. I just sat there, still, numb. I read the rest of the report, and then I saw the listed probable match under close genetic relatives. Paternal relation identified, Marka Whitmore, my fiancé. My sister's baby, my sister's betrayal. That birthday dinner I mentioned earlier. It wasn't just a party, it was a setup. I had invited everyone. Samantha, Mark, my parents, my lawyer, and tucked into my purse was the DNA report. I had planned this moment for months, down to the wine my sister liked, the seat she always took, the cake Caleb loved. Caleb, why don't you go open your gifts in the living room? I smiled. He ran off with joy. What's this about? My mother asked, raising an eyebrow. I stood, took out the envelope, opened it. I have something I'd like to read out loud. I unfolded the letter slowly, the same letter that had kept me awake for nights, the one I'd read over and over until the words lost all meaning. Except for the pain they held, everyone watched me, even Samantha, still smiling, still pretending. I recently did a DNA test, I began, to trace some family history, but I found something else. The room quieted. My father's fork stopped midair. My mother tilted her head. Mark, seated beside my father, shifted slightly. Samantha froze, wine glass halfway to her lips. The test showed that I'm not Caleb's biological mother. There was silence, a thick, frozen silence. I'm not his aunt either, I added. Now the air snapped like a wire pulled too tight. My mother blinked. Mark's face twitched. Samantha dropped her fork with a loud clink. Then who? My mom started. I turned toward Samantha, slowly. Let her see it coming. Samantha, you're his mother, aren't you? Her mouth opened, then shut, then opened again. What? What are you talking about? She whispered. I pulled out the report and placed it on the table, right between the mashed potatoes and the ruined roast chicken. It's all in here. The DNA match, the markers, the probabilities. You're his biological mother. Her face turned white. And the father? I turned my eyes on Mark. He looked like someone had poured ice down his spine. Mark. He didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at the paper like it might bite him. Asterisk. That's insane, Samantha spat. This is a mistake, I smiled, calm, cold. Mistake? Caleb's hair matches yours, his blood type, his smile. I looked at Mark again. And yours? Mark shook his head slightly. I don't know what she's talking about. You don't? I said. I reached into my purse again, pulled out another envelope. I had your toothbrush from when you lived with me. Gasps around the table. Ran your DNA too. 97.8% match. I leaned in. You're Caleb's father, and she's his mother? I stared at both of them. And you both let me raise your child for 6 years, lied to me, used me. Samantha buried her face in her hands. Mark stood up suddenly. You said you were infertile, he snapped at Samantha. You said it wouldn't matter. My father stood too. What the hell is going on? Asterisk, and then, Mom, why is everyone yelling? Caleb. He stood at the doorway, holding a half-unwrapped toy truck, confused. Scared. Samantha stood up, her mouth moving but no sound coming out. Baby, go to the living room, sweetie, I said gently. He looked at me, at her, at the chaos, then turned and walked away. The sound of his footsteps echoing down the hall was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Asterisk, everyone was shouting now. My mom screamed at Samantha. How could you let her raise your baby and never say a word? My dad pointed at Mark. You were going to marry her. And you slept with her sister? Samantha cried. Mark cursed. And I stood up, gathered the report, and walked out of the room. I had already packed Caleb's things the night before. We weren't staying. Asterisk, I called for Caleb, held his hand, walked him out to the car. My mom followed. Ella, wait, where are you? Going? What happens now? I turned to her, calm. I had already cried, already shattered. Now I was rebuilding. What happens now? I repeated. Now they both get to live with what they did. I looked back at the house, and I get to decide what Caleb needs, because I'm still his mother in every way that matters. I buckled him into his seat. Got in the car and drove away, without looking back. Asterisk, it had been 1 week since the birthday dinner. 1 week since everything exploded. 1 week since Caleb and I packed our bags and left the house I once called home. We were staying in a small rental near the outskirts of town. Quiet, safe, exactly what we needed. Then came the knock. Firm, aggressive. I didn't need to ask who it was. I opened the door to find Samantha standing there in sunglasses, heels, and a folder in her hand. "I want my son back," she said. She pushed the folder into my chest. "These are preliminary custody papers," she said coldly. "You had no legal right to adopt him. There was never a court process. You just took him." "I didn't." "Flinch, you gave him up," I replied. "You asked me to raise him." "I never signed anything," she said. "No adoption, no guardianship, which means by law he's mine." I crossed my arms. "By biology, sure, but parenting isn't." "DNA." Samantha stepped closer. "He needs to know who I am, Ella. I'm his real mother." That word "real," it sliced through me like a knife. "You lied to me for 6 years," I said, voice shaking. "You let me raise him. Let him call me mom. You think you can just take that away?" She didn't answer. She turned and walked down the steps, but before she reached the car, she looked back. "See you in court." That night, as I tucked Caleb into bed, he asked me something I wasn't ready for. "Mom, who was that lady at the door?" I hesitated. "Just someone Mommy used to know." He nodded sleepily. "She looked like Aunt Sammy." I kissed his forehead. "You don't have to worry about her, okay?" He smiled and closed his eyes, but I didn't sleep at all that night. Over the next 2 weeks. Samantha filed for emergency custody. She claimed I'd stolen her child. Said she'd been emotionally manipulated during pregnancy. Said she'd always intended to reclaim him. When she was ready, she had lawyers, she had money, she had my past against me. No formal adoption, no biological connection. All I had was Caleb. Over the next 2 weeks, Samantha filed for emergency custody. She claimed I'd stolen her child. Said she'd been emotionally manipulated during pregnancy. Said she'd always intended to reclaim him. When she was ready, she had lawyers, she had money, she had my past against me. No formal adoption, no biological connection. All I had was Caleb. I sat across from my attorney, hands shaking. "Do I have a chance?" I asked. He looked hesitant. "It's going to be tough. She's his biological mother, and there's no paper trail showing she gave up her rights. But I raised him. I've been his only parent," I said. "Doesn't that matter?" He paused. "It might. Judges do consider emotional stability and history, but without legal guardianship documents, it'll be an uphill battle." That night, I dug through an old box I had shoved in my closet. Photos, Caleb's baby clothes, letters Samantha had written during pregnancy, and then a journal. Her handwriting. I opened. "I can't do this. I hate this baby. I want it gone. Ella says should take him." "Good. I don't want to be a mom. Mark says it's better if she raises him. That way no one ever finds out it's his." My heart stopped. There it was. Proof. She knew. He knew. And they both decided to lie. To let me take the fall. And now she wanted him back? Not anymore. The courtroom was tense. Samantha sat across from me, hair styled, face perfect. Mark sat beside her like a guilty ghost. The judge listened as her lawyer painted me as an obsessive aunt who stole her child. Then it was my turn. I stood up, took a breath. "Your Honor, I may not be Caleb's biological mother, but I am his only mother. I was there when he took his first steps, when he called me mama, when he cried in the middle of the night and needed someone to hold him. His biological mother, my sister, wrote in her own words that she didn't want him, that she hated being pregnant, that she was relieved to give him up." I handed over the journal. The judge read in silence. Samantha's lawyer looked like he'd seen a ghost. Samantha was pale. "Those were private thoughts," she whispered. "They were lies," I replied, "but they show the truth. The truth you tried to erase." Asterisk, the judge took a long pause. "This is a deeply painful and complex case," she said, "but the court cannot overlook 6 years of consistent, stable, loving care, and we cannot ignore written evidence that the biological mother relinquished that role willingly." She turned to Samantha. "You will have supervised visitation for now. Custody will remain with the respondent, Miss Ella." I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just looked at Samantha and saw, for the first time, defeat. She had lost. Asterisk, it was a Tuesday afternoon. Caleb and I were at the park. He was laughing on the swings, hair flying, dimples deep. I sat on the bench, finally at peace, until I saw him Mark standing near the edge of the park, watching, hands in pockets, sunglasses on, pretending to just be passing by. I stood up immediately, walked straight to him. "Don't even think about it." He took off his glasses. "I just wanted to see him." "You gave that up when you gave him away." I snapped. "Ella, please." "He's my son." "No, he's mine. I raised him." "You lied. You used me." "You were never supposed to find out," he whispered. "That did it." I stepped closer. "Then maybe next time, don't sleep with your fiancé's sister and make a child. You don't get to watch from the shadows and pretend you're a dad." He looked down, humiliated, and then he said something that made my blood boil. "He deserves to know who I am." "No, Mark. He deserves to never be broken the way you two broke me." Asterisk, the next morning, I woke up to notifications exploding. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn. People tagging me, messaging, asking questions. I opened my phone, and there it was, a full-page article in a viral women's blog. Title, "My Sister Stole My Baby, the Pain of Being a Powerless Mother," written by Samantha. Photos of Caleb blurred out. A flattering photo of her holding baby clothes. Quotes, like, "I never stopped loving my son. I was young and manipulated. Now I'm fighting to be in his life again, but my sister has all the power." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I scrolled further. Video interview. She cried. Actually cried. Tears falling as she talked about how I stole her motherhood. She didn't mention the journal, or the court ruling, or the part where she called Caleb an accident. Just soft piano music and well-rehearsed lines. "Ella, I need you to stay calm," my lawyer said. "She's trying to sway public opinion. Can she use that in court? Maybe, it depends. But it could cause problems if people start attacking you online." He paused. "Do you want to make a statement?" I shook my head. "No, I want to show the truth." Asterisk, that night, I sat at my desk. I took out the envelope, the one I had written 6 months ago, addressed to Caleb. I had meant to give it to him when he turned 18. But now the world needed to hear from me. I posted a photo of me and Caleb 1 from when he was 2. Him sitting in my lap, his head on my chest, his fingers in my hair, and I posted the letter. This is the letter I wrote for my son when he turned 18. But given the lies being spread today, I think he deserves to hear it now, along with the truth. "Dear Caleb, I became your mother the day I held you in my arms and promised you'd never be alone. I didn't give birth to you, but I gave you everything I had. My time, my body, my sleep, my soul. My name. You were never a burden, never a mistake. You were the gift I didn't know I needed, even when the people who brought you into this world ran from their responsibility. If someday you learn the full story, I want you to remember just one thing. Being your mom saved my life. And I would do it all over again, even knowing how much it would hurt. Love always, Mom." Asterisk, within hours, it went viral. The tone flipped overnight. People called Samantha out. You gave him up. Now you want sympathy? She raised your child and you lied for 6 years? That's evil? Ella is the real mom, period. Thousands of comments. Tens of thousands of shares. Then came the twist I didn't expect. A woman messaged me privately. Hi, you don't know me, but I was in Samantha's prenatal support group 6 years ago. She attached a screenshot. A group chat where Samantha. Sad. I tricked my sister into raising my baby so I wouldn't have to drop out of grad school. Win-win. I stared at the screen. Sick to my stomach. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a planned betrayal. Asterisk, we submitted the screenshots as new evidence. My lawyer added a request. Motion to terminate biological parental rights for Samantha. The judge looked over everything. Quiet, stern. Then spoke. The court finds the petitioner's conduct not only negligent, but manipulative and psychologically damaging to the child's guardian. Effective immediately, Samantha Whitmore's parental rights are revoked. I heard her sob from across the courtroom, but this time I didn't look back. Asterisk, 3 months passed. The court battle was over. Samantha's parental rights were revoked. She had vanished from social media, from the city, from everything. But Mark? He wasn't done. One sunny Saturday, a letter came in the mailbox. No return address. Just my name. I opened it slowly. Carefully. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a photograph. The photo. Mark and Caleb. From that one time we all went to the aquarium. Caleb was maybe 2. Mark held him on his shoulders. The paper. A handwritten letter. Ella, I know I don't deserve to ask you for anything. I made mistakes, big ones, but I'm not a monster. I didn't plan for this. It just happened. I was broken when I ended things with you. I wasn't thinking. And I didn't know how to undo what I'd done. But I've watched Caleb grow up from a distance. I see him in the grocery store sometimes, at the park. I don't approach, I promise. I just look and ache. Please, when the time is right, tell him who I am. Not for me, for him. He deserves to know where he comes from. Mark, I held the letter in my hand for a long time, stared at the photo, and felt absolutely nothing. Not rage, not pity, just cold, clean clarity. Asterisk, that night, as I was making dinner, Caleb walked into the kitchen. Mom, how come I don't look like you? I turned, caught off guard. He was holding a school photo in one hand and a picture of me from college in the other. I knelt beside him. What do you mean, baby? I mean, my hair is different. My eyes are different. Kids at school said I must look like my dad. I swallowed hard. Here it was, the moment I've been dreading for 6 years. Can I tell you a story? I asked. He nodded. Asterisk, we sat on the living room floor. I took a deep breath. When you were born, someone very special couldn't take care of you. And she asked me to help. I said yes. Because the second I saw you, I knew you were meant to be mine. I raised you. I changed your diapers, fed you, cuddled you when you were sick. I watched you grow. That's what makes a mom. He looked at me, serious. But what about my real mom? That word again, real. I smiled softly. She gave you life, but I gave you everything after. And your father, he made mistakes, but he helped make a really great kid. And I want you to know, no matter what anyone tells you, you were always loved. Always. Caleb stared at me for a long time. Then he climbed into my lap. You're my mom. That's it. And the first held him tighter than I ever had, because I knew now he didn't need a DNA test to know where he belonged. Asterisk, a week later, Mark tried to file for supervised visitation, but his petition was denied. The judge ruled that his presence would destabilize the child's emotional security based on previous lies and manipulation. Mark didn't fight. He moved out of state. Vanished. And that was the last we heard of him. 6 months later, Samantha tried to publish a book, self-published, a memoir, title, My Baby, My Battle. She made up details, changed names, pretended to be the victim again, but the internet didn't forget. Every platform she posted on was flooded with comments like, "You abandoned your kid and lied about it for 6 years. Sit down. Ella's the real mother, not you." The book flopped. Her name became a meme for family betrayal. And then she disappeared too. Asterisk, he turned 7. Big party, cake, friends, balloons, Nerf guns. I stood in the kitchen, watching him run around the backyard, covered in icing and laughter. Maya, my best friend, walked up behind me. "You okay?" "Yeah, I think I finally am," she smiled. "You're the strongest person I know." I looked at Caleb. No, he is. Asterisk, that night, after everyone left, I sat in bed and pulled out one final envelope. A new one, for the future, addressed to Caleb, age 18. By now, I hope you know the full story, but I wanted to remind you of something important. Your life began in chaos, but it was saved by love. Your story started in betrayal, but it became about truth. You were born of a mistake, but you were never one. You were and always will be the best thing that ever happened to me. Love, Mom. Asterisk, she tried to take him from me. But I raised him with love, not lies. And that's what made me his mother, not blood, not biology. Just love.